It's something that I think is very important in an educational institution of the caliber of the University of Waterloo. I really think it's important. When I used to teach, which is 20 years ago, I always wanted to emphasize the history of ideas and how people came to think what they think and understand where people fit in the context of the flow of ideas. By virtue of the fact that we are in a university, we must believe that ideas are important. We must believe that the way in which scientific innovation takes place comes from people collaborating in buildings like this incredible part of Quantum Valley. One of the things that I thought was worth highlighting yesterday, and with risk of embarrassing two people who are really close friends and really wonderful people, Wal and Helgi represent what the Financial Times likes to call the Nordic model. And the Nordic model is a very interesting thing in the confluence of ideas. It's an engineering-driven business model. It's a solutions-oriented political model. It's a notion of a collaborative and collective approach to problem solving. And I think one of the things that's most interesting about the world right now, and I just leave this as a thought, I'm not trying to make another long speech, I just leave this as a thought, almost a tweet. The fascination of the current Chinese leadership with the Nordic model, which is well understood by the people who do business in China these days. The fact that the Chinese Prime Minister is fluently German speaking. As a result of an education in an earlier period of time in Eastern Germany. The way in which these models come to influence the way the global commercialization of knowledge and the global invention of new technologies is taking place, I think was exemplified by two people who I'm very proud to call friends, but it was more than just the substance of what they were saying. It is what they represent as part of those marvelous global currents. Second point, and this is really more a set of questions to put for the rest of the day and to even beyond the day, because one of the things that I want to make sure is that this is less a wedding where we go home and say, wasn't that wonderful, than really a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, where you launch people into the world and we can continue to follow their progress along the way and model it accordingly in terms of picking of different cultural rituals. So a couple of questions that came out of some really interesting discussions of brand Canada. And I think it's a really important part of what we do in all of our lives. We have very many different lives: venture capitalist, entrepreneur, university administrators, public servants responsible for the way in which the whole thing fits together. We have a phenomenal public service in Canada and in Ontario. So what does this Canada brand thing mean? We all are proud of it, and we're rightly proud of it, and Tom spoke to it. But what does it mean, and how do we build on it, and how do we operationalize it? And Tom Jenkins was very specific about it. The Patriot Act. We are a place where information comes to be properly regulated, as opposed to be simply free or to be simply constrained by other kinds of political considerations. What does that mean? I mean, I have answers, and I'm not going to give them today, but I think that's a question that comes out of it. What does it mean to be a leader in green mining? What does it mean to see mining and environment as a design issue, as opposed to being a simple commodities pricing issue? Who's training, educating the leaders of the environmental industries like mining to think in terms of design as opposed in terms of how pricing of commodities works and how you develop infrastructure to get things out? If not Canada, then who? And I mean, can Canada do it? I don't know. That's a question about building on the brand. So I kept it, and I kept it under the allocated time, which means that despite meteorological limits, what my mother used to call meteorological determinism. If the weather's lousy, you're in a bad mood. And it's amazing how smart people are, and when you used to tell them that was ridiculous. So we've kept it a little bit more back on time. It is always my pleasure, and it's the first time, to get Pearl back up here, to get the morning sessions moving. I hope that gives you a little bit of an organizational framework to think about things.